Never tell a lie. You probably heard that since birth, right? It's a golden rule. You are not supposed to break that rule. But when it comes to law enforcement, lying is actually a very effective tool. And you might not know it, but it is legal. Moral? I hear you. Okay. But legal, there's no question, there's no doubt about it. It's legal. And lying has helped catch some of the worst of the worst. Take, for example, Dalia DiPolito, a woman who hired a hitman to kill her husband. Police intervened before it happened, thank God. And then they went ahead and set up a sting to break the fake news to Dalia of her husband's bloody death. And just watch her reaction, because honestly, folks, it is nothing short of Oscar-worthy.
Listen, we had a report of a disturbance at your house, and there were shots fired. Is your husband Michael? Okay, I'm sorry to tell you, man, he's been killed. He's been killed, man. I'm sorry.
No, he's not.
Listen.
No.
Try to calm down.
No.
Listen, right now we need to get you to the station.
No.
We need to get you to our police station. I can't let you stay, man. We have to do our job. If you want us to find this killer...
I mean, that's amazing. It's just amazing. Even the shaking fingers, all of it, right? She knew she'd planned the whole thing, but he wasn't dead. And this moment has been playing over and over in my head. Why? Well, since Christopher Laundrie was invited to join the police in the search for his son. Okay, I'm going to make the connection here. Did any one of us ever really believe that Mr. Laundrie could be of use in the look-see, the search 3 weeks later? Come on, 3 weeks later, let me show you his trails that he liked. Well, maybe he was useful. Maybe he was helpful. Maybe they just wanted to see Mr. Laundrie's reaction to something Mr. Laundrie wasn't expecting. I think it is a fair question. And my two guests know a thing or two about strategic crime fighting. Sheriff Mark Lamb from Pinal County, Arizona. He is the face of the American Sheriff Network. And also with us tonight, former NYPD Detective Dr. Alfred Titus. That's doctor, folks. He's a professor at John Jay College of Criminal Justice. To the both of you, welcome. Okay, Sheriff Lamb, am I crazy to assume that taking Mr. Laundrie to help search 3 weeks after the search had begun was actually an entirely different strategy? And that was to maybe put something unsettling in front of him and see what his reaction is, to see if he's really telling the truth about my son went hiking in the swamp.
Yeah, Ashleigh, thanks for having me on. You know, it's hard to say what their goal was there, but there's always different types of tactics that we'll employ. Spending time with somebody to see if they actually may have played a role in this was probably one of their goals, just to see if he might slip up along the way. When we interview people, we will consistently try to get their story out of them and see if that story changes along the way. That might have been one of the things they were looking at. And genuinely, maybe they thought, let's take a chance and see if he actually might lead us to somewhere or put us on Laundrie's path. But, you know, there could be various reasons of why they did this.
Yeah, Dr. Titus, so we sort of went through a whole lot of scenarios in my head, and I need you to get me off the ledge if I'm too far out there. But I wondered if they might even go so far as to take, you know, what look like human remains and happen upon them with Mr. Laundrie. Because if Mr. Laundrie's telling the truth and his boy really did go out there hiking and they came upon human remains, well, that would be a very genuine, very hard to act moment. That would be the worst moment in a man's life. But if Mr. Laundrie saw human remains and he knew that his son was nowhere near that swamp, well, you'd have to act like Dalia DiPolito to make it seem as though you're devastated. Am I crazy about that, Dr. Titus?
Not at all, Ashleigh. First of all, thank you for having me tonight. But you are absolutely correct. The thing about investigations and the way investigators operate is they look for these key tells, which is what we call them, tells. And that's eye movement, that's nervous behavior, perspiration, all of these little trigger things are things that allow us to know that there's something afoot. Either the person is feeling guilty or something is just wrong. So there are multiple tells that we look for. And that's what it sounds like law enforcement is trying to do here. They are almost at their wit's end, and they are just looking for some kind of answer, some kind of information that could direct them.
Yeah, and I'm not suggesting that they'd put real human remains out there. There's plenty of different kinds of props you can make it look like. Because when Dalia DiPolito's husband, was shown to her as being dead, they put makeup on them. They don't really kill them. Clearly you can fake something to look very real. So, okay, Sheriff Lamb, I want to be really clear that my staff and I talked out this whole scene a couple days ago, and we decided not to go to air with it because we didn't want that to be something that the Laundries might know prior to actually going out for that search, because the search was planned and it was called off and it was supposed to happen again. We wanted to make sure it happened, it was done, so that would not let the cat out of the bag. But I did want to ask you, Sheriff Lamb, the FBI took dozens of boxes out of that home, right? They walked out with all sorts of stuff, and Brian Laundrie's room is still in there. So I wondered if they might have taken an item of clothing without the Laundries knowing, because that could be one of the plants in the swamp, right? It's Brian's ball cap, it's Brian's favorite shirt, and then there's human remains and total confusion. Do you see what I mean? Like, I could see that happening. Is that a strategy that they might employ?
Yeah, I mean, it could be a strategy. I mean, that's a tough strategy to try to show a father what might be the remains of their son. I don't know that a lot of law enforcement agencies would go that far. But if they suspected the father as being guilty of doing it, they might. This is what they did to that other gal who they talked her, they told her that her husband had been killed because they had solid evidence that she was trying to hire somebody to kill him. So that kind of went along that path. But this is a kind of a different situation. I'd be surprised if they would use that tactic. But I mean, who knows? They might.
Yeah, we don't know what they have, right, Mark? I mean, honestly, we don't know if there's surveillance, if there's something tapped that gave them some evidence and they just need that one extra little piece. And that one extra little piece is that dramatic reaction or that very faked reaction. I don't know.